Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Teresa Conroy-Roth, and you're watching the latest episode of Lightning Leadership. With me is Desiree Maya, and she is the author. She is a podcast host. She is a consultant. She's a mentor. So many cool things. But I read her book just last week on vacay, cover to cover. That's right. I read it cover to cover. I loved it. So excited to have her on. And I also said that I'm going to purchase 3 copies, one for each of my 3 daughters who are in their 20s and early 30s. It's a game changer. It's a life changer. And just thrilled to have you on, Des. Thank you so much.
I'm honored to be here. I'm so excited from the moment we met. It was like a kindred spirit moment. There's just people, all you need is about 5 to 10 minutes to know
Yeah.
that there is something special about the connection you have with someone, and that's how I felt about you. So to sit in this space with you and have a conversation means a lot.
Thank you so much. So let's talk about your Zap moment.
Yeah.
When did you first realize that you were a leader?
3rd grade.
3rd grade.
I
Tell me more.
know that's so specific. I ran for the representative of my 3rd grade class. I'm pretty sure I got a button or something at the time that inaugurated the very special moment of when you were, I don't know, 8 years old or something like that. And I just, the point is that I knew from a young age that I wanted to stand for and represent people. And I'm, maybe a little inexperienced at the time, and it might have been like school lunches, or if it's the tater tots or french fries that we're rooting for or something like that. But I knew that I wanted to be someone who could positively influence other people. So at the time, it might have been my classmates of all maybe 30 of us from
Yeah.
moment to moment. But I think since then, there's just always been a passion to do something positive that can move, whether it was a small group or a large group, to just make a difference somehow.
Love
So
it.
I knew young.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you wrote the book.
Mhm.
Why did you write this topic? Why did you write the book?
It started with people who were listening to my podcast, where I talked about a lot of different things, predominantly around limiting beliefs, after having interviewed many people, especially entrepreneurs. And people were asking me, so where's the book
Yeah.
that supports like all these different conversations that you're having? It sounds like there is one.
Yeah.
And so there was a part of me that's like, there should be. And also, I think there was a fire in me brewing that wanted there to be for a lot longer of a time prior to that question getting asked from people. But I realized that I was a student of all my self limiting beliefs, and having validated that we all have them
Mm-hmm.
after interviewing people from all different countries, all walks of life, all different, religious, all different affiliations, background, sexual orientation, that there is just a common thread that we all have limiting beliefs. And I wanted the opportunity to showcase that. So it was a combination of the fire that was brewing in me, the questions that were getting asked, and the fact that I work at a firm that has this thing called recharge leave. And
Yes.
I had spent many, many years ignoring the fact that I could have taken that thing 3 times over. Um, that I was like, I'm going to do a writing program during the time I take this time off. And that's how I was able to produce something so quickly, because I just sat down and focused on it.
Yeah. The self-limiting beliefs, we're going to get into some of the tips away and the takeaway from the books. But one other thing is acknowledge, and some of them, we were talking earlier, some of them you've held on to for a really long time. I think through this book and just some of the reflection I've had towards this book, I mean, I really wanted to spend some time just meditating and thinking and unpacking them, because there's some things that you tell yourself, or society tells us, or your family, or your religious upbringing tells you that in some cases you have to acknowledge. So we'll talk about that a little bit more as you start to unpack. But for folks that are looking at the book or would love a great kind of a self-help book. This isn't even a self-help book. It's a journey, right? Journey of that. What are some of the things that you want folks to remember or take away from the book?
It's really simple. One, the biggest message is that you're not alone. In the times of the darkest hours that I've had, in the self-limiting beliefs that I've experienced, when I went through my first divorce, there's isolating experiences that we have where we feel tremendously alone and in the dark. And so the first message is that you're not. And in fact, there's so many people that can relate to that dark abyss that you're going through. And as shameful or that you might feel about that, it's actually in the expression that you gain the light and you gain the comfort and find out that we're all just a human in a mess trying to make sense of life at all times. And then
Yeah,
we get tools that allow us to do it just a little bit better, you know? The second thing is that, we hear the word trauma a lot, like, oh, our trauma and our triggers, and like, let's fix it and just go to therapy. And it's one of those things where our things that have hurt us and have shaped us, even with the tools that we have, they don't go away.
no,
So it's not like you go to therapy and for years and suddenly now that thing is just gone. It's an evolution and it's okay. It's the fact that what you're trying to do is put tools in your arsenal. So when that trigger does come up, you can manage it in a healthy, productive way versus maybe something that was destructive previously, right? So the book is about equipping ourselves with tools. So those are like two big things,
yeah.
is like, can we just put more tools in our toolbox, recognize we're not alone, and that this life is a journey and it's an evolution.
That's awesome. I think for me, reading the book and doing some therapy as a whole, you start to look for patterns, right? Things that happen in your life that you kept responding to the same way, expecting a different outcome, right? And it wasn't until kind of went through and had someone say to me, well, that you told me about this situation and you told me about situation B and situation C. Can't you see that they're just things that you're carrying through without really addressing, right? And I think when I was reading your book, that the concept of a compass, right? The concept of a personality assessment, understanding your strengths, a concept of not only learning from past mistakes, but taking a different direction based on who you are and what your core value system is. I mean, those are huge.
One of the biggest things for me, and I hope people can appreciate the honesty in this statement, is that you're the common denominator in
Yeah,
every scenario and every scene that you play in your life. So accountability is a huge part of reflection and commitment that you make when you read this book, because there's so many times in life where you have the option to play the victim. It was the environment. It was my upbringing. It was this person. It was my ex. This person was crazy. If it wasn't for that, X wouldn't have happened. You were there for all of those moments.
oh my
You had a
God.
choice in every scenario. You could have walked away. You could have stayed. You could have went left instead of right. The only person you can ever control is you.
Hmm.
So that's the place where you have to invest to make new decisions and not be upset about the past because you can't change it. We need to accept that we dated the wrong person. We made this mistake. We screwed up at work. We totally cussed someone out and that was a poor decision, but just do better.
Yeah,
That's why, it's very simple to me when Maya Angelou says, when you know better, do better.
I
It's,
saw. Yeah, that was
it's that
one of the
simple,
many quotes. One of the
right?
many quotes and references that you have there, and you also give a great list of people who you look up to, right, and people who guide you. Um,
Mhm.
Folks that most of us would know, and then there's some folks that not all of us will know. I mean, Brene Brown, right,
Yeah.
was another one in the book that you pull from a couple of times, and again, just some great thought leadership.
Hmm. Absolutely. Can't do it alone.
Well, No, no, we can't. And I think that was, and again, another kind of key takeaway for me, right? And you can't do it alone. And you're constantly growing, and you should be constantly learning and constantly evolving and constantly, I mean, for me, constantly reading, right? Of just trying to figure out who can I be next.
Absolutely. 1000%.
Yes. So you have a podcast. Tell us about your podcast.
Yeah.
Tell
So
us about your website. How do people find you?
I know. So I try to keep it really simple,
Okay.
and everything is called Born Unbreakable.
Got it.
So it's bornunbreakable.com, and everything else that you need to know is there because all the links are there. So the social media is called Born Unbreakable. The
Love it.
book is called Born Unbreakable. The podcast is called. One thing I figured out about people is that you got to keep it simple. You can't be, with all these different concepts. But the point, and maybe something I should say, because if you do look at my logo, the B and the U are pronounced. So they look a little bit different because it is another message that I'd like to tell people. And my message is to be unapologetically you, because I do think in that is the greatest power that you will ever find, is when you are authentic. Because I promise you, the people that are meant to be there will come. You're not everybody's cup of tea, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. But I think there's so many different experiences we face in life where we're trying to be everybody's cup of tea, and it's impossible. So you might as well
Of
just be
course, speak
you
me.
might as well just be yourself and let the cards fall where they may. And and the people that like the tea are going to come out and they're going to drink the tea, and the people who don't are going to go get some other tea. You know what I mean? So
I'm serious. That resonates so much with me in my life that, again, hearing you say it once more, I mean, it's exactly what it is. As soon as you hit that level of authenticity and you're comfortable in your own skin, great things can happen. Unfortunately, I think for me, it's that concept of fake it till you make it, right?
Mhm.
In my teens. And then you hit your kind of 20s and got a rough start early on in my 20s, right? And it wasn't until my mid to late 20s that I figured it out, figured a lot of it out. But then
Yeah.
I'm constantly evolving. But it was right about that time, late 20s, right?
It's
That,
right where your youngest daughter is,
yeah,
right? It's like that
yeah,
25, and that was such an evolution for me
it
too.
was.
I had already gone through a divorce by that time, believe it or not, and that was such an epiphany. I had to go like, oh my God, who am I even? Like, do I even know
Yes.
what my identity is? What do I stand for? What do I like to do? Who do I want to be? I mean, it was
Yeah.
just such a revealing time. Like you go through a phase where you think you know everything, then you find out you actually don't know much. And then it's like, then for the rest of your life, it's just this journey where you become very humbled, hopefully.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and you find out that there is every day there's something to learn. You will probably not consume all the things you possibly can, but you try.
This is
And it is in those deepest, darkest valleys of despair where your greatest lessons and epiphanies will emerge. I promise that for
no.
sure.
I 120%, 150, 300% agree with you on everything you just said. Because it's in those darkest times, right, that you have to pick yourself up off the ground and do
Yeah,
it yourself, right?
yeah,
And you'll never know until you try. And I think for me, coming from a traditionally, conservative household,
yes,
breaking out of that bubble and saying, "Well, I can do this. Well, why can't I do that? I'm going to do this. Why can't I try?" But I had to break through some barriers, right? And that whole concept of being unbreakable,
mhm,
realizing, that I'm wired a certain way. I was
mhm,
always wired a certain way, and it wasn't until I was able to kind of break out of a lot of that bubble that you just kind of go, wow, now you can go figure it out.
that's right.
But I resonated with your background, right? And some of the comments that you shared in your book. And so I think there are a lot of similarities there. And I really appreciate you. So, Desiree Maya, thank you so much, Coach Des, for coming on the show. If you haven't got the book, go get the book. Amazon.com, great read. Check out our website, check out our podcast series.
Crazy.
And I am so excited. Des, thank you again. Um,
Yes. Thank
and
you. Thank you for having me. and just share, you know, the last thing I'll say to anybody listening is that just the power of presence. The power of it, if there's anything that you can do to change your life, is to, for every moment that you consume, is to be present. It's so hard. We got all the ding ding dings and the red dots and all the stuff, but the beauty of really being able to appreciate and have gratitude and to soak in that what you need is being present in every moment that you encounter in your days and with people. And it's moments like this where it's not a long time, but it's a very meaningful time, is that you get such fuel. And so I appreciate you, you know, just us having this time. This is our cup of tea here at the moment. I actually do have a cup. It's not tea. There's a smidge of coffee left for what, you know, for what I've been able to make it through in the day. So I really do appreciate this time.
Thank you so much. Until next time, have a great day, everyone. Bye. Yay!